There we go. There we go. Now I think our sound will be a little bit better there.
Nice working, yeah.
Make sure everybody's got it loud and clear there, going right there, though.
Yep.
But, that just shows you how competitive your league is right there.
It's very good. Very good league, very good players, and everyone had anyone could have won the conference tournament, and it wasn't a league. I know High Point had the best record in the league, but it doesn't mean that they were the best team, and I felt that throughout the whole year. And but as far as my program, we did not play consistent enough basketball to be to where we wanted to be at the very end. But our guys played hard. Our guys showed a lot of character. They showed a lot of love for Upstate, and those are the things you wanted to see as a head basketball coach.
All right, JC, you're on vacation this week, but I'm going to put you to work right now. You're being a co-host for me. Is there anything you'd like to ask Coach Dickerson?
I would like to ask him to bring the team to the restaurant to eat. Just whenever you can coordinate it with me. I'd love to have you guys, whole team, just like I told you a minute ago. Coaches, you want to bring the university president,
Yep.
Anybody you want to bring, we'd love to have you guys. We seem to have a pretty good record of teams, any sport that comes up here to eat, maybe before a game or after a game. We seem to have a pretty good winning record of teams eating here before a game and then going on to have good games. So we'd love to have you, and I can either coordinate it with Coach Cox, or you can just call me directly here at the restaurant. We'll get that set up.
Well, Dave, we had kind of a neat, unique thing this year that JC and the Sugar and Spice was one of my sponsors for Broome football.
Okay.
And what we did, Broome had 2 all-state players in the backfield. And so, I had to come up with something for them to name them something, like Thunder and Lightning, something like that.
Sure.
So I named them Sugar and Spice.
Oh, my goodness.
And Sugar and Spice combined, Sugar ended up making All-State and was the area player of the year here. He passed and rushed for over 3,300 yards.
Man.
He threw 19 touchdowns. He rushed for 12 touchdowns. But, like we talked about Miguel being perfect, this kid didn't throw an interception all year.
Oh,
as
wow.
a quarterback.
Wow.
And that was 167 passes he threw and did not throw a single interception.
Wow.
Well, Spice, who will be back for 2 more years at Broome, he rushed for he had over 3,000 total yards of offense and scored 31 touchdowns. He runs a 4.40, and he's promised me that his goal is he's going to get down to a 4.2 by his junior year, and he squats 475 pounds.
Wow. So he ran for that many yards in a high school season?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he's back for 2 more years.
That's very, very impressive.
But he had over 30 touchdowns, and the big thing there was he even ran a kickoff back. But he had a couple of receiving touchdowns there, though.
So let me ask you a question. Are those 2 guys good enough to play in state at one of the Division I schools?
South Carolina was the first one it offered. JC, your boys are dropping the ball over there. They sent C.J. Spiller in to see him, but they hadn't offered. But Tennessee's already offered him. Georgia's offered him.
Okay.
Alabama's been in contact with him. But he is the top prospect in the state of South Carolina for 2026.
And what about the quarterback?
Quarterback, surprisingly, and again, it's like what we've talked about with the transfer portal, that a lot of the colleges he's got some smaller offers, like from Anderson, maybe Limestone, and some places like that. But the colleges can go out and get them one in the portal and not have to worry about a freshman coming in. And it's killing high school players that they're doing that there's a lot of good players that are going by the wayside because you can get a position like that. They'll take a chance on a high school lineman or something like that, but you can get every other position you want out of the portal.
Yeah, the transfer portal is one of the biggest things that have happened to college basketball in my 33 years that has changed the whole landscape of stuff. And like me, myself, I had 4 meetings today with guys who exhausted their eligibility, who can't come back, right? And that was Nick Ives, Miguel Ayese, Thomas Shader, and my son D3. And now tomorrow I'll be talking to guys who can come back. And so, the transfer portal is a big part of what we do right now, both from a sense that you want to keep your best players in line, but if they put their name in the transfer portal, it's going to be a lot of suitors out there for them, right?
Right.
And then for us to go out and try and get some good players as well, and who's already been coached, who's already gone through a college season, and those guys understand the grind of playing 34, 35 games. And so I'm a little nervous about it right now, but it's one of the things that we got to contend with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we just had a special delivery guy.
We did.
Come in here.
We did. Yeah.
And we've got to do something here. We'll get this in just a second. Though.
Yeah.
I've got to do something while JC's here. I got to show him something here. Now I went back. Dave didn't know I did this. I went back in the archives, and lo and behold, who do you think this guy is right here playing for University of Maryland?
That's our coach right here.
Right there.
My goodness. Oh my goodness! I look the same, but I had hair.
Didn't we all back then?
Oh, I had hair. Oh man, that was a great game, and I was at Coldfield House, and we were wearing our 3rd uniform for home that year, and having gold on, and I think we were playing Georgia Tech in that game, and we had a good win.
All right,
Yeah.
and going back to this one, look at that. I know the best player you ever played against was on your own team.
No doubt about that.
You had to cover him, Lynn Bias.
Lynn Bias, exactly right. Yep.
But other than that, as far as an opposing team, who was the best player you ever played against?
So the best player I've ever played against was Kenny Smith at North Carolina. You had Christian Laettner at Duke. He was good as a freshman. You had one of the best players I ever coached against at Maryland was Paul Pierce, and then Antoine Jameson at North Carolina, and then you had Vince Carter and all those guys. So I played against some really good players. I mean, like Matt Daugherty at North Carolina, I played against him, and so all those guys were like Mark Price at Georgia Tech,
John Sally,
yep. Those guys, Dwayne Farrell, those guys was good, and at Clemson you had Eldon Campbell, you had Eldon Campbell, you had all those guys that was just great players.
It's funny you brought up from Georgia Tech, Malcolm Mackey and a couple of those guys, or you brought up Dwayne Farrell and some of them, and Malcolm Mackey and some of those guys. I had the opportunity. My good buddy at Spartan High, Doug Lau, got me into a mess one time that the year after we won the region championship, I was trying to find a really good Christmas tournament to go in. Mm-hmm. And he sent me up to Brainerd High School up in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, Brainerd,
that you walk in there, Aswani, and they don't have like their all-state players. They have their wall of all their high school All-Americans.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Mackey was one of them that played there and all.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, we go in there, and this was a year that the football coaches at my school talked 6 of my players out of playing. And so we went from winning 25 games a year before to where I had 6 of my players that did not play that year, including 2 4-year starters, and one went on to play quarterback at University of South Carolina, and the other one played offensive line. So we were basically a JV team that year because I played I said, if I'm going to rebuild it again, I'm going to have to do it with sophomores. So we go up there and play, and they got a guy playing for them that was a big star at Tennessee named Harrison Walker.
Yeah.
Point guard.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and I mean, this is interesting there. I would compare the environment like playing in the old Gaffney High School.
Okay.
So we go out there, and we had checkerboard uniforms, kind of like what Kentucky wears with that. And that crowd got on my kids, and we're playing them. And you talk about being shell-shocked. The first play of the game, Harrison Walker went down and jammed over us. Second play of the game, Harrison Walker stole it, went down and jammed on us. Third play of the game, he got the ball, took off, went down the court, and my two guys chased him as fast as he could and throws the no-look pass over his shoulder to the trail man who dunked on us. So by that time, I'm like, what in the world's Doug Lau gotten me into? So it was interesting there. My players I have never seen deers in headlight like that because they got heckled the whole time there. And then to make matters worse, I got back and I found that particular area where the Brainerd is led the nation per capita in murders, and we got killed that night. I never let Doug Lau get me in a tournament again after that, though. But we learned a very valuable lesson that we played them, and then the next night we had to play the state Tennessee football champions in basketball.
Yeah.
We did a little better against them, though. So, all right, I'm going to throw a couple of things out at you too here.
Okay.
All right. These are some questions that we throw around the game and everything like that. But let's get back to us.
Okay.
Everybody's had a chance to stare down your picture right there. So we've got us back in here in the hunt again.
Yeah.
And all right. Let's see right here. Rebounding tips. I know you played inside.
Yep.
What are tips you can give us on rebounding?
Well, I think one of the biggest tips for rebounding these days, and it has changed a little bit, and when we were coming up and when you were coaching, blocking out was a big thing. And you had to make contact, but you had to go and attack the ball once you make contact. And I think that no one really blocks out these days. And so I think you have to go back and really block out, and not get a block out, but get a touch of the body to slow the momentum down. Then you got to go and explode for the basketball. You got to really go by and explode for the basketball. And you want to try and rebound not with one hand but two hands, and trying to get it at the apex of the height of the ball. But I also think that as a coach, you need to emphasize rebounding below the rim as well. And because there's a lot of balls that drop in the lane, that those are team rebound opportunities as well. So you want to rebound, but a block out, go retrieve the ball really, really hard. And you have to know where the ball is being shot from. If it's being shot from the corner, it's coming from the other corner. If it's being shot at the top of the key, it may just come back to you a little bit. You never know that. And so you have to teach rebounding from the onset as far as perception of rebound and being able to read the basketball and know where the ball's going to go at.
And again, the thing, too, that I see a lot of is lots of times people don't block the shooter out. The shooter is the only one that knows when it leaves their hand whether it's going in or not.
Exactly.
And they know where the ball's going to come off.
No doubt about that, yeah.
And I saw this weekend a lot. I had the women's SEC tournament over in Greenville that South Carolina did a good job of blocking out, but had some trouble in some games. They blocked them out, but they didn't go get the ball.
Yep.
And they were not getting loose balls. And then they had a problem yesterday when they blocked out. They were getting hit in the head. And this is one problem I don't think that you'll ever have in coaching a game, pulling the hair when the referee's not looking.
Yeah, that was I thought I watched that game. And obviously, I had two sisters that graduated from the University of South Carolina, and South Carolina is our state school. But I thought at the beginning of the game, the referees lost control of the game, and so I wasn't surprised to see that sideline brawl or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought at the beginning of the game, the first 5 plays of the game, they had lost control of the game. And I thought something bad was going to happen. Didn't know it was going to happen to that extent, but I felt something bad happened because they did not regulate the physicality of the game, especially off the ball.
It was, and again, I've been getting bashed all day on Facebook and everything for telling what was going on in the game. Because people saw on TV there. I watched everything that went on away from the ball. I watched the forearm cheap shots going back up the court. I watched the elbows in the head. But the same person that pulled the girl's hair right there for South Carolina,
Cardoso,
that it was Angel Reese, was the one that also got a flagrant foul for elbowing her in the head. And
Yeah.
should have been ejected for that, but they just called a flagrant one and kept her in the game. Well, just before they had the ruckus on the sidelines there, I was telling JC earlier, a play from me to these people sitting at the table right there, that Angel Reese popped her in the mouth again with an elbow and busted her lip. And she walked over right in front of me to the official and said, "My lip is bleeding. She just hit me again." And they did nothing. And then that's when the next play erupted, where South Carolina, full of Wiley, stole the ball, and the girl just put her in a bear hug and spun her around. And then the girl that did that, the intentional foul there, went over and pushed another South Carolina girl.
Yeah, I thought that LSU came into the game with a game plan to where, sometimes I use what I got. If it ain't rough, it ain't right. And I thought they came into the game knowing that from a skill-wise and from a talent-wise, they couldn't beat South Carolina. They had to muck the game up. And
they did.
And they really mucked the game up. And I just thought those officials, I thought they did a good job of figuring out what had happened during the brawl and after the brawl. But before the brawl, I thought they were very incompetent of how they called that game. And if you want to blame anyone for it happening, it was how the game was officiated at the very beginning.
Well, the thing that I had noticed too, because I don't know, the night before, I felt like I was watching the anniversary or something of Lakener hits the shot at Kentucky when South Carolina took the ball out of bounds. You know what most people don't realize about that game?
What's that?
Tennessee still had a foul to give. They had a foul to give, and it was 1.1 seconds there, and all you had to do was pressure all four of those girls and foul them like you're going for trying to steal the ball. That takes at least a half a second, and then they got to take it out again. They won't get a shot off.
Yeah.
But that game, I felt like, man, how, and the thing too, how can somebody, one of the coaches not on the bench, not know to let the head coach know that? And see, Tennessee still had one timeout left. South Carolina didn't have any. And I know Kelly Harper said, well, I didn't want to call timeout and give Dawn time to set up a shot. But in a game situation that important, you need to make your players aware of what all the scenarios are. And I feel like they gave that one away.
Well, not only scenarios, but from a defensive standpoint, they let her stay open.
Yeah.
She was wide open. She got a clean catch and got a clean shot because they were covering 5 against 3 or 5 against 4 and left her wide open. And I don't care. One shot is all that's all that matters.
Yep.
And she made it. Just one in a lifetime. She made it.
That was her only 3.
Only 3 she had taken. She taught her freshman year at Syracuse. She took 1 3, and she didn't make it. But that's the only one she's taken at South Carolina. And I had a chance to talk to her one-on-one after the game. Had a great interview with her there, though, and asked her, I said, do you ever practice that shot? Just in practice? I said, is that a play? And South Carolina didn't have a set play for that particular thing.
No.
But, the thing about it was that not only did they not cover her, they gave Raven Johnson taking the ball out of bounds, put nobody in her face. They just put people back. She was protecting against the lob in the lane. She had a clear view of who to throw it to.
Well, what they were looking for, they took away the 3 most important players, right?
Yep.
And they know that a rebounder is important as well. And so they didn't know that when the ball was passed in, you had to shoot it. You couldn't pass it. And so they were guarding the inbounder as well. And so when you guarding those people and then you leave someone wide open, that kind of stuff can happen. Now, if you want to go with the percentages and the odds and everything, that's the one you want to take 3, right? But she made it. Yeah. And that's why you call it March Madness.
And we saw madness. I saw that on Saturday night, and then on Sunday saw basket brawl March Madness. I can honestly say in all the 37 years of coaching or almost 60 years of being around basketball, I had not seen a wilder weekend than that over there, though, of the things that went on.
Yeah, I just think that the officials have lost control of the game, and because they wait for something big to happen instead of officiating the roughness and the toughness all away from the basketball. And I think that the way sometimes we coach and the magnitude of each game being seen, and people are just, players' mindsets are totally different. You know, every time you take a three and you make a three, somebody look back at the bench. Mm-hmm. And every time that there's a bump, people take that personally. The game is physical, right? And so I just think that those three officials over in Greenville on Sunday, God Almighty, I'm not saying they're the reason for what happened, but if they would have officiated the game the right way at the very beginning, that would have never happened.
With 2:08, that's when the brawl broke out.
Mm-hmm.
That actually since the night before, you know, I was watching going down the stretch of the championship game, seeing what the team foul situation was to see if anybody was going to screw that up again and all.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what the team fouls were at the 2:08 minute?
What was it?
LSU 1, South Carolina 0.
See, that's the problem. That's the problem.
That they were, you know, neither team was going to get to the bonus for shooting that thing going down
That's the big problem with the game, that physical and that game that meant so much to both programs.
But it was, you know, and people think that you know, female basketball is nice. I heard LSU drop more F-bombs going up down the court. They'd miss a layup and yell, I'll just say it. And the thing, I mean, it's just like before the play we had the basket brawl breakout was Bree Hall drove and made a nice bank shot off the glass to give Carolina maybe a 5-point lead then.
Yep.
And so she got fired up then and turned around to her teammates and yelled, "Let's go!" And the girl that was covering her, whose brother came out of the stands, got arrested, popped her with a forearm in the jaw and in the side of the face, running back on defense.
Yeah.
Because of that.
No, it was unfortunate. I watched it happen. Matter of fact, I was saying in my mind that, you know what, this is not going to end well because the ventum in the game and the physicality in the game was way too much for two teams that good.
How as a coach, I'm going to get your opinion, and I'm going to say something on this, and then we're going to take a break for a minute because we want to do something for JC. I'm going to tie up his whole vacation.
Exactly, yeah.
Listening to us ramble on and on, though. But as a coach, you know, I was very, very proud of the way that Dawn Staley handled it, and Kim Mulkey, I thought, took the low road along with Angel Reese. When I did post-game, was in there screaming, "I ain't scared of South Carolina. I ain't scared of them. They ain't nothing," and was running her mouth up there in the media room at the big press conference. So, but, you know, what was your take on that, of how they were handled it, and how would you have handled something like that?
Well, I think Dawn Staley is one of the best coaches in college basketball, regardless of men and women, right? And her recruiting and her coaching has been, I would say, the best in college basketball, men and women. And so in her class has been at a high level as well. And I thought the way she apologized to both fan base and apologized for the onlookers and apologized for the people in the stadium was a class act. And I thought how Coach Mulkey handled that was, you know, it's going to be hard for them to play again. Because
those two could play for the national championship.
No doubt about that.
Because they were two of the best teams in the country.
And so someone is going to have to de-escalate because she said, because of the things she said. And I just think that when we are coached, you know, the big part of our lives are wins and losses, but the biggest part of our lives is to make sure that we can learn from everything that goes on, and that we can move our players from being a freshman to being a woman or being a man, and that they are able to take care of themselves once they finish the 4 or 5 years with us, right? And I thought the way Dawn Staley handled that, like her players going to be able to learn something from that situation. LSU coach, I don't think their players going to really learn anything from that.
No, they're taking it as a joke, and I mean, Cardosa actually, before she even left the locker room for them to go back to Columbia, already posted a apology statement on there, though.
Yes.
But for a head coach to come on there and said, why don't you pick on somebody your own size? Why don't you hit Reese and do that? Well, she'd have clobbered her too there. But to go on and say that about why are you picking up, well, what it basically was, Cardosa is a nice, calm. Again, I did one-on-ones with her 2 of the nights I was there. The nicest person, and the South Carolina girls are as nice of people, just good people, smile and happy and yes sir and no sir and cordial like that though. But for a coach to say, you know, I wish you'd hit one of mine, and said you should have just stayed at it and let the other girls that were too involved, let them fight it out. Yeah. Is that not ridiculous?
You know, that's now I know she's a big time coach, and I know she's probably want to retract what she said and how she said it, and I think that when you make that crucial of mistakes, because one thing we always got to understand is that they're kids. Like no matter what, if they're big-time players, they're playing the SEC, the ACC, or the Big South, they're kids, and we got to be the barometer for them. And if we're not that, then you're going to get a brawl like that on national TV that sets college basketball back a little bit. Yeah.
And you know, it's got to be hard too, because Cardosa was I'm just saying, hard. She was wrong what she did.
Sure.
She's ejected, and she'll have to miss the first round NCAA tournament game. But I can applaud her for having her teammates' backs with that in a way there, that she was not going to let them push her teammates around, and she'd had enough of it too.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing was ugly, Dick. I just thought that the couple guys that came out of the stands, one got on the court with was one of the LSU players' brothers. I thought that was so.
He actually injured one of the security guards there and stepped on one of the SEC scorekeepers there to climb over him to get out there.
Yeah, I just thought that.
And he pushed Cardosa when he got on the floor.
Yeah, I thought that look was as bad of a thing that I've seen in college basketball in all my 4 years of playing at the University of Maryland and now coaching for 33 years. I mean, I thought that was bad in the sense that it was by 2 of the best teams in basketball and women's basketball, and you would think that because they're good, they have a level of restraint as well.
And you know, it's hard to know what to do in that. I will confess, and I'm not proud of this, that I had a game one time when we were playing Malden High School, and Malden, their smallest player was 6'4".
Okay.
They were 6'9", 6'7" across the front line. My tallest player was 6'5". They came to my gym, and they were destroying us. They were talking trash. They were taking cheap shots like that the whole ball game. They were taunting us the whole game. The officials were doing nothing because they were ranked pretty high in the state.
Yep.
And finally, one of their players, who was a football player too, but he was a good basketball player. He's a big old guy, about 6'5". He came over to me in my coaching box and got up in my face. And I'm not going to repeat what he said, but he challenged me and used some 4-letter languages in my face. Now, am I going to sit there in front of with my whole team watching, am I going to sit there and wuss out, or what do you do?
Yeah.
They literally, the referees and my coaches had to hold me back. That I said, you're not going to come in here and treat us that way and call me that. And then I'll be doggone if when we went through the handshaking line after the ball game, that he restarted the whole thing. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. What do you do in a situation like that? I was not happy with that. I was not proud of that.
No.
But I felt like I had to take a stand and stand up for my people, for my school, and all like that, for my players, and let them know we're not taking that.
Yeah,
by a high school kid.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think when a team is good and they trash talk at the same time, that's a recipe for disaster. And because no matter what, no matter who you play and how you play, or no matter what the score, there should be a level of respect. Respect for your teammates, respect for your coaches, respect for the team and the players, but most importantly, a level of respect for the competitiveness of the game.
Okay.
Of the game, and I just think that it's really, really tough. From what I've seen, a great team like LSU. Now I don't know what South Carolina players were saying or if they said anything, but I know at the first 5 plays of the game, everything was geared towards LSU coming in with the mindset, if it ain't rough and it's right, and that they were going to try to muck the game up and play in mud so they can have a chance to win.
And I think it probably, too, that LSU, South Carolina's beat them 17 straight times.
Yes.
And they have not beat them probably 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
And all right there. And that kind of leads me into my next question. Now, I know you are a class act. I know your players are a class act. And heaven knows they went through some really hard losses that are hard to take. Do you think that we should continue with the handshaking line? Because I'm seeing a lot of problems with that, with even coaches fighting, things going on. Or do you think that maybe that should be the teams just go on to locker room, you can wave at them there, but do you still see the need to shake hands after a game?
Well, if LSU if no one would have been ejected yesterday from the LSU South Carolina women's game, and that handshake line would have been so toxic, right? That would have been so toxic. Now, I just think that there are 2 things that we got to take a look at. We got to look at court storming. We got to take a look at that and make some modifications. And I think that handshake line, I think it's up to us as coaches to make sure we do a good job of having that be a part of who we are and our identity. In a sense that that's a part of our culture, that no matter what happened during the 40 minutes of the game or 45 minutes or whatever, that when it's and the game is over, the game is over.
Right.
And that because you have to do something to promote sportsmanship. And a part of sportsmanship is discipline and appreciation. And so I don't want to see the handshake line go away, but this court storming and this rough play in college basketball, that got to go away because that leads to the stuff at the end of the game.
Well, that was something there that I'd wondered with of where that should be continued. Now, I couldn't do this now. I'm sure they would outlaw this, but what I used to do after the games was that I would go to the opposing coach and invite him. I'm going to tell him, we're going to have a post-game prayer in the circle right here.
Yeah.
If your team would like to come and join us, we can do that. And we did that for all of our home games.
Oh, wow.
The cheerleaders came and joined us and all like that, but we had it in the center circle out there. We even did it, even we played Spartan High. First time we ever beat Spartan High over in Red Dobson Gym. That we did that, and we had some teams that would participate and come join us and were there, and we had others that wasn't their thing, and that was fine there though.
Yeah.
But but I don't think I could get away with that now.
No, I think we got to do a good job of making sure we mitigate this stuff and the officials, because some of the fouls they called against LSU. They knew that something bad was going to happen because the shots that they took to the lips and the face and the throat of the South Carolina players, I thought their restraint was as good as I've seen.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like, we were kidding about I kept looking for John Roach and Riker and Reebok to come out of the stands for the old Fighting Gamecocks. I was ready for them, but it's just like, bless his heart, one of your coaches right there that I remember when South Carolina and Maryland had to brawl down in the Columbia down there. And I thought that Reebok hit Lefty in the jaw, and I thought he had broken his jaw, and I asked Patrick Monahan, the coach at SMC. That was his grandfather. SMC's coach was his grandfather. I asked him about that. He said, Lefty never told me that story. So I filled him in. He said, I'm going to have to ask Granddad about that. So he did. And he asked Lefty about getting his jaw broken. Lefty said, No, he said, my jaw was not broken in that game. But he said, I was the one that instigated the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and as you look at that game, that's one of the reasons why South Carolina left the ACC.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it probably, now that they're in the SEC, and the SEC is a really good conference, but before then, it was probably one of the biggest mistakes of leaving the ACC, because the ACC was a great fit for South Carolina and Clemson and that Atlantic Coast area.
Between that and the recruiting regulations too, where it was geared to the Tobacco Road schools that South Carolina had players from New York they couldn't get in school.
Yeah.
And that was that. I'm going to let you talk to JC for just a second. You can tell him a little bit about your history, your restaurant and all, and I've got to fix something real quick in there so we can let him go here.
Okay, that'd be great. Great, yep. So JC, tell me about this place. I mean, I learned about this, and
my dad started it with Harry's dad, the other guy that's my business partner back there.
Okay.
Our dad started the place in 1961, January 2nd, 1961 was the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And both of our families are immigrants from Greece. And basically, my dad had already been in business in Charlotte at one of the South 21s or one of the places up there. And apparently Charlotte wasn't big enough for another restaurant.
Okay.
So they came and opened this place. I think one of my grandfather's cousins owned some of the property. And, back then it was kind of like, there's no room for error. You gotta be successful. Your other option is to go back to Greece to, Hitler had just gone through and, tore everything up.
Yeah.
So there were no options for failure.
Okay.
And, my dad and Harry's dad just slug it out for a very, very long time together. And then, a while back, Harry's old enough to run the place too with me. And I was in the construction business. I finished Clemson in architecture and building construction.
Okay.
I just asked Dad for a job one day because I was just tired of my previous profession.
Mm-hmm.
And I started this in 1989 full time, thinking I'm just going to do this just for some burger money, some beer money, and I just stuck with it. It was one of the things that's it's been a cool job. It's been a cool profession. You become part of the community.
Yep.
Your customers, love you. I just see some people here that come here all the time.
Yep.
Kids grow up in front of you, and they end up inviting you to parties, high school graduation, weddings. Yeah. So it's a very cool thing. It's a little bit more than a job. It's kind of we become part of people's lives. Sporting events. People love to come here after a basketball game, football game, whatever. For some reason, we just seem to create a lot of energy with the serving line. And, the guys are in the back, doing the food, and we're taking orders and just trying to knock everything out. So it's kind of a very unique situation for us, and we've enjoyed it. And I like to tell people that we make a lot more friends than we do money. I can't remember what my line used to be, but we seem to do a good job for the community, and we've enjoyed having you guys with the Upstate program here.
No, it's been a pleasure of mine, and it's been a pleasure to have something like this in Spartanburg, because you can bring in different restaurants, you can do different things, but having a staple.
Right.
Have a staple where everyone comes and they know your menu, right?
Right.
And so have your menu been the same throughout the years?
Been almost identical. You can look at some of the old menus, and almost everything is on the menu. My dad added souvlaki, the thing that you like, the tenders on a stick. He added it, I think, in the late 70s. It was just kind of his own little recipe, and it just. We've never advertised it. It's the biggest seller we got. We could stay open and just sell souvlaki all day.
Oh, man.
But other than that, I think the only thing that's changed is our prices, and we've gotten older.
Well, I can tell you that you guys have figured it out in the sense that you have your niche.
Right.
And most importantly, you're like a great basketball team. You know who you are. Right. And then you work on all cylinders of that. And so and the thing that I love is that you have the same people working for you.
Right. most of my kitchen staffs have been with me, some of them at least 25 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so
Exactly.
one of the things I was thinking about when you guys were talking about basketball and the community and upstate, whatever, maybe you can use sugar and spice as a recruiting tool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, send all the recruits to Sugar and Spice.
Well,
first
and I'm gonna tell my best two players. I'm gonna name you guys Sugar and Spice.
Right.
There you go.
And if you could do that for us, that'd be great.
Yeah.
JC had a story he was telling me too about with Zion Williamson coming
really?
in here though
Yeah,
with New York.
Actually, Lee Sarter worked for us back in like the early '80s.
Yeah, Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a player. He had a scholarship, I think, at
Upstate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they play
yeah.
there.
He later on goes to become coach at the day school, and he was coaching Zion Williamson. And he and Zion had a very good relationship, and they would come here together to eat after practice or whatever. And Zion would say something. That's a big boy.
Yeah.
We have to open up both double doors there to get him in, and it was usually middle of the afternoon when practice was over, and sometimes I caught up, sometimes I didn't. But man, if Zion was in the house, you knew Zion was in the house. But I never expected him to Coach Cox and I were talking about. He was playing against a lot of teams that were just smaller schools.
Yeah.
I never expected him to turn the lights out like it did at Duke that one.
And then in the NBA now too. So.
Right. So, and I think ESPN did a little story on Zion and the places he's been to. So ESPN's also been here just one time because of Zion, but that's pretty cool stuff.
No, he's a great ambassador for Spartanburg, and even though he was playing against the inferior teams in high school, but boy, his talent was always at an all-time high, and I think the older he gets, and the more mature he becomes, and the more self-sufficient he becomes, he's going to become a better player than he is right now.
Well, we have got something, Dave and I have got something we've put together.
That looks too cool.
Our appreciation for you. We like the jersey you've got up there, too.
I did that pretty
but
quickly for you guys.
we have put something together, though, in appreciation for being our host school up here.
Yes.
Right there, and it's got both our logos on there, and he's had all the players have signed this ball for you.
That is very, very cool.
Well, we appreciate you, and
that's too much.
Yeah, and I've done some cool things, and throughout my coaching career, I've coached in the ACC, the Big Ten. I've coached in the NBA and the Big South and the Conference USA. But having a coaches show here has been one of the joys, and I really appreciate everything you've done for us.
Coach, we thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I told the girls knew about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said, y'all can go ahead and be trying to help him find a place to display it in here.
We will find a spot for it, somewhere where everybody can see it and appreciate it. And that's as cool a thing as we've ever gotten here.
Yeah.
And I got you guys a couple T-shirts too.
That'd be good.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, we appreciate
That's
it.
awesome.
Well, we won't hold you up anymore. We know you got things to do.
I appreciate you having me on the show and stuff. I was just kind of expecting to be here for about 2 or 3 minutes. Not part of the whole thing, but
that's kind of what we do. We get to talking about some good stuff and just go on and on.
It's funny that it's not only the coach's show with Coach Dickerson here, but just talking about other things in general that are pretty relevant.
Yeah.
As far as
and that's what I have fun is just comparing notes because I'm old school, he's old school, and the game of basketball is changing. And I'm kind of set in my way. Sometimes those changes kind of ruffle my feathers a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've got to get his input. I mean, just one thing that we talked about, and I'll get one more story. I thought this was neat. You know, that Caitlin Clark, and I won't say what my position on her is.
Sure.
But, you know, the thing was that she is now considered the all-time leading scorer for men's or women's basketball.
Sure.
And Dale Brown went back, and I know this is a different world we live in now. He kept the shot charts of all of Pete Maravich's games. Mm-hmm. And look back at it. If we had the three-point shot when Pete Maravich played, he would have averaged 57 points a game over his career. He also, and he would have finished with 4,000 with the shots he attempted. It would have been threes in. He would have finished with 4,731 points.
Wow.
And then you would go back and average in. Back when he played, freshmen couldn't play varsity. They had to play on the freshman team. He averaged 39 points a game on the freshman team his freshman year. So you throw that in there, and he'd have probably had over 6,000 points.
Yeah, that's tough, and
that is strong. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a strong argument. But the one thing that I have close to that was Len Bias. I played with Len Bias at the University of Maryland, and Len Bias was an all-time leading scorer until Juan Dickerson broke his record. And but Len Bias never played with the three-point line.
Right.
And Juan played with the three-point line all 4 years he was in college. And so it's always a part of it. But my position is that I respect the game. And what Caitlin Clark is doing right now is just phenomenal for the women's basketball game. And she's captivated the audience of the whole country because she's having a special year. And how she's doing it has been magnificent. It's been fantastic. And so I appreciate the game both from a men and women's standpoint, but I appreciate the game of basketball. And it just looks like, even though there's been some naysayers with her, and a lot of people have come back and said some things they probably shouldn't have said, she's taken that in stride, and she's always taken a high road, and she's very appreciative of what she's got and who she is.
That's great.
Yeah.
JC, I want to get you on the camera here. If you'll take your ball and hold it with the front of it there. We got to get a picture with you right here on the air, the two of y'all, because I can go back and take a still picture of this right here. But I want to make sure we get that on our broadcast today, though. But I look forward to coming in and paying off all my bets with all my golf buddies and all, and letting them see your basketball.
This is a very cool thing.
Well, we appreciate you sitting in with us today, and hope your vacation's a good one.
Thank you, and we hope you consider us for next year for your coaching.
We definitely will.
No doubt about that. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
And I'll be back in a lot.
Bring Coach Cox with you. If you don't want to bring him, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll think about it. Yeah, but I'll definitely love to bring the team in.
Back of the line, make sure everybody's everybody's got something to eat.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, now.
All righty. So we have had J.C. Copsis with us here today, one of the co-owners with the Sugar and Spice, is sitting in, and he gets to hear how we ramble on and on here on a Monday afternoon right there. Yeah. All right. I'm going to throw one at you right now.
Okay. I
am a 6'7" guard who runs the floor like a deer. I got us right here.
Okay.
We can do this one. That I had to have two camera angles today.
Okay.
But I can go to that one now. There we go. That's good. Mm-hmm. I'm a 6'7" guard. I can run the floor like a deer. I can shoot the three. And I can rebound and get in there. I'm a high school senior. Tell me why I should come play at USC Upstate.
Well, because first of all, I just think that one of the best things we do, and with our program and our staff, we get our guys better. And I always, and I'll tell you, Dick, with you being a recruit, is that I'm not going to ask you to do anything that we're not willing to do as coaches. So in other words, if you're in the gym and you want to get better, we're going to be in the gym with you. And so the thing that I always tell players like that is that, it's my job. It's my job to put you in a situation to be successful, but it's your job to come out and be productive. And so, in other words, like great players, I want you to be great, and I'm gonna give you the audience and give you the platform for you to be great. And so we play a fun style of basketball in the sense that everyone is moving. Everyone's cutting, and no one is labeled as just a specialist. And so we want to make sure that we can take care and promote your skill set. And then the last thing is that everybody want to play in the NBA. Like I still want to play in the NBA right now. And so what I tell kids is that I've had the luxury to recruit and coach 22 NBA guys.
Wow.
And so my last 3 that I recruited and coached is D'Angelo Russell with the Lakers, who had 44 points the other night. We had Keita Bates-Diop, who's playing for New Jersey, and Jay Sean Tate, who's playing for Houston. And so, I have been around guys, and I've gotten guys to a level where they can play big-time college basketball and play at the highest level and get to the next level. And the last thing, I've recruited and coached 50 guys that have played overseas. And so, in other words, I've shown that throughout my coaching career, if you're good enough, you're going to get seen, and you're going to create opportunities for yourself.
And again, that's important.
Yes.
That's good to know. Where do I sign? I asked Dino Babers that question one time, and when he was head coach at Syracuse.
Sure.
And I said, I'm a 6'6" quarterback. I got a rifle for an arm, can do all that. I said, tell me why I should come play at Syracuse. He said, because we're going to move you to tight end. I said, let me think about that one. I wasn't expecting that answer there, though. I've gotten some good recruiting pitches. I've signed with some teams before.
Yeah.
All right, you're officially in the off season now.
Yep.
Going through that, what priorities do you have during the off season, after the off season started?
So the priorities now for me personally, I did this on Friday, Saturday, and yesterday, Sunday, is to get some rest. And to get some rest from a mental, emotional, and physical standpoint, get some rest. And to where now I can come into the day, which is Monday, and be focused on what's important, have the main thing, and not have the last loss or the last game interfere in what I'm thinking. And now for me, and you didn't have this so much when you were coaching, but everybody has to do it now. High school, college, pros, you got to re-recruit your team. And so now the biggest thing for me is to come in this morning. I came in early, got in early this morning, and I wanted to sit in my office about an hour by myself and think about my team, think about my coaching staff, and think about our needs. And so what I've done is I'm now meeting with each player. And I met with all of the guys who have exhausted eligibility, who can't come back to Upstate. So that's Nick Aves, Miguel ESA, Thomas Shader, and my son D3. Then my next meeting is going to be with everybody who can come back to Upstate. And so now I got to re-recruit our team and re-recruit our program and make sure we can keep the guys we want. And then the next thing would be recruiting. And so today and tomorrow is devoted to me meeting with our team. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm on the road recruiting. And so I already got 2 things signed up for Wednesday, 12 and 2:30, and then I'm in Florida on Friday, looking at a junior college tournament.
Okay.
And so I always think that it's a great thing for us to get away for about 72 hours as a coach, 48 hours as a coach, just to get our footing, to make sure our last game don't interfere in our decision making, and then we can come in with a clear mind as for how can we get our team better for next year.
How hard? I don't know if I could do this, and it was kind of interesting coaching with the portal and the NIL there. I mean, you see what the statements that came out with Nick Saban there about as soon as he lost the game to Michigan, that he had so many players wanting to be guaranteed a certain amount of playing time and wanting to know how much money they're going to make next year, though. And I think that's really why Boeheim and Coach K and Roy Williams and all those people got out of the game, because, I mean, to me, that would be so hard to put your heart and soul in developing a young man and then him have no loyalty or appreciation of what you've done. Now, I know a lot of people I know, and I watched Gainey play in the South Carolina-Tennessee game, but I can understand him wanting to go and play where his father is.
Yep.
But just going to the higher bidder when a coach takes his time and hard work and sweat to develop your skills and talents and just walk out and have no loyalty to him, that just – I don't understand that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you can understand Jordan wanted to go play for his father, but I don't understand that because I lost him, and obviously for us,
I didn't say it was right.
For us, if he'd have stayed one more year, I think he could have went to Tennessee and been a starter and been a great player, and now he's coming off the bench and only playing 15 minutes a game, something like that, and if he plays great, they leave him in. If he doesn't play well, they put him back on the bench.
Yep.
And so I always think that the one thing that we got to do as coaches, and we got to be careful about this, we got to be really careful in the sense that I've been coaching for 33 years, so I've gone through 3 different decades in coaching. And so I've learned things, and from the first decade, from the second decade. Now, this decade has been difficult, right? And so I have this saying on my board, nothing changes if nothing changes. That's not on you as a player or my players. I got to change, and I got to adapt. And now I'm at a situation at Upstate where the NIL is not a big deal because we don't have it, right? And so now we got to contend with our best players wanting to go into transfer portal. And so what is there for them to keep them at Upstate other than their love for me as a coach, their love for our system? And so I got to continue to develop a pitch or a sales pitch or something that'll keep them here, because it's hard to turn down Clemson and South Carolina. It's hard to turn down. It's hard to turn down some of these big-time mid-major programs. It's hard to turn down $25,000, $30,000 when you are 18, 19, 20 years old, and so that's hard to do. So my outlook is, it's been great for me to have conversation with you, and that reinforces things that I believe in, but it also reinforces the thing I have on board, that nothing changes, and it's not on the players, it's on Dave Dickerson. I got to adjust to the game, because I still love the game of basketball, and I still have great relationship with my guys, and those things you can't take away, but we have to be able to adapt. And I have to be able to get our program to a level to where guys want to stay instead of guys want to leave.
And again, I know that's hard. I remember the days being an assistant at Upstate of having to try to recruit people to come. And, I mean, one of my people I was recruiting at that time was probably a player you'll remember back to that had a really good career at Clemson was Vincent Hamilton at Central High School.
Oh, my goodness.
And we would have had him. I mean, I took him to I won't say that here, our sponsor, but another restaurant here in town there who back then everybody thought was great, although the food is better here.
Yeah.
But, some things like that, and he was leaning our way. And then Clemson had somebody transfer out at the last minute, and he signed with them, though. So I know how hard it is with that.
Yeah, it's not hard, it's difficult, right? And so I understand that part of it, and and I got to have those conversations. I had them today, and I'm going to have them tomorrow. But I still believe in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and the thing that I want to impart to our guys is that, the best players, aside from Jordan last year, the best players from the Big South came back. And their teams had a chance to cut down some nets. And so I want the same thing.
Right.
I want the same thing. And so I'm going to sell, your legacy and the fact that if we can get to a situation where we can cut down nets next year, and you are part of that, and plus you're one of the better players in that process, that's going to last you for a lifetime to come back to a place and to come back to a gym and see your name in the rafters.
And that's kind of the same talk that I had with my best player ever coached. He was a nervous wreck during the recruiting period. His name was Brandon Hughes. Mm-hmm. He was an all-state guard. He was, again, the toughest kid I ever coached. And I loved him to death. That kid was a leader on the court. I played him 32 minutes many a night, though. But he would get on his teammates, and I'd have parents come up to me, other parents saying, when are you going to ever say something to Brandon about yelling at his teammates? I said, I love it, because he would get on their tails, and he held them accountable.
Yeah.
And he got into the situation where he had a great senior year.
Yep.
He was a 3-year starter, had a great senior year. And South Carolina and Clemson both had already filled their recruiting class.
Sure.
They both told him, that if you will walk on the first year, we don't have any money left, then you will go on scholarship the second year. He was getting offers from everybody else at the D2 level.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon said, Coach, I don't know what to do. I don't want to do. I said, Brandon, you've got to decide in your mind, do you want to be a small fish in a big pond that when you get there, you may not play for several years, you may have to play a backup role, or do you want to go to a program that you can leave your legacy and your mark on that program and be something that you can leave in the record books? And he said, Coach, I think I want to be a big fish in a small pond. And he went to Newberry, and again, he played at Newberry. He was SAC 8 Player of the Year. Newberry, he was Division II All-American 2 years, led the nation in steals and stuff, and his jersey's retired at Newberry College. He's in their Hall of Fame, and he's in the SAC 8 Hall of Fame. Went to overseas to play in Europe, and his first year playing over in Europe, he was the player of the month that first month.
Yeah, and so that's I'm glad you reaffirmed that story reaffirms what I'm selling at Upstate, in the sense that we don't have a big bag of money to give right now, and I'm not saying we're never going to get that, but as of now, right now, we don't have the best arena in college basketball. It's a great practice gym, but it's not the best arena. But when our fans come there, I think it's one of the best places to play in the country.
Good environment.
And our fans have done an unbelievable job. I mean, I thought this year our fans were much better than we were on the floor. And I love that. And I love that. And I love our student body. And I love the excitement. Like that Longwood game and that game against Presbyterian, like the last 5 minutes of that, you could cut the tension with a knife, right? It was just unbelievable. And I love where it is. And so I got to figure out somehow, some way that I can keep my best players, and keep because there's going to be casualties. I shouldn't say casualties. There's going to be guys that's going to leave because that's just what they do now.
Yep.
They play on 3 and 4 different AAU teams. They play on 3 and 4 different high school teams. And so what make me think that I can convince a young man and a parent that staying at Upstate is good for them when they haven't done it in high school or AAU.
Right.
And so, but I got to continue to do a good job because I think we are right there to be really good next year. And we got to add some pieces, and my coaches know what we need to do to add those pieces. And if we can just keep our core, because, Jalen Brazil played some of the best basketball the last 4 or 5 games of the year. Yeah, he played great. Just played great. I think he ended up the last 5 games probably around 40-something assists and maybe under 5 turnovers.
He started shooting the ball. And
shot the ball really well. And so because he's a worker. He's a worker. And he's very conscientious about his shot. And so we need to keep those guys within this program to where now, because if we would have had Jordan Gainey to go along with this team, along with Mr. Goodlow, Kydarius Smith, and Sini Njai, boy, we'd have been really good. Really good, yeah.
Well, that was, one thing, and again, I wasn't going to make excuses or anything like that because it's not an excuse, though. But the missing piece of the puzzle was you did not have the go-to guy like you had with Gainey, the guy who can create his own shot, whereas Miguel would not do that. Gainey was a shooter who could shoot off the dribble and could make his shot and do that, and he could beat you either by that or he could find a way to get to the line and was a good free throw shooter. Yeah, you didn't have that.
And I just think that one more year, I think Trey and Justin Bailey and even the one guy that I think will have a big year next year will be Jordan Sherrod. I think Jordan Sherrod is just one of those guys that's got a great family, great work ethic, great kid. I just think that those 3 guys have a chance to make us a different team next year.
If he can get in the gym with the gun and develop that shot and that free throw, and again, like you're saying, it's going to be up to him how good he wants to be.
And I love that kid, and I love his family, and I want him at Upstate, and there's no reason why he won't get that, because this summer, like last summer, I'm not making no excuses. We didn't have a gym. They were changing the lighting system in there, and I don't know what happened, but we didn't have a gym.
Man.
And so we lost out on the month of June, July, and some of August not having a gym.
Wow.
And so this summer it's going to be back full-fledged force, and our guys get better, and guys going to have some continuity. And I just feel good about our guys taking the necessary jump that we need to get our program back to where we be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league.
Now, when you go out recruiting,
yes,
a question with recruiting, what are you recruiting by certain positions? What are you looking to bring in for next year? Is it a number of certain positions, or are you just going out and trying to get good athletes and players in general?
I'm doing both, but we need to get some post help. We need to get 2 good post players. We need to get strength, athleticism from that position. And most important, we need rim protection and rebounding and scoring in the post, in the paint, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're going to look at bringing in 2 post players. And then we're going to look at bringing in 2 wings. Someone that can play the 2-3 and someone can play the 3-4. And so that we can stretch the floor a little bit from a inside-out standpoint. And then we're going to look at bringing in probably a big point guard if we can. And now the one kid that we signed early, I'm excited about, and I actually love him, Jabari Briggs, from Christ School down in Asheville. He's from Lancaster in South Carolina. I just love him as far as his tenacity. He plays hard. He's going to have a great body. And so we got to just add stuff to his game, because he's bringing us things that we definitely need. And so we have that. We signed him early, and I can't wait to coach him as well.
We know that High Point has got the funding and stuff like that, but how many of the schools are pretty much in the same boat you're in with the NIL situations at their schools? I would think that Gardner-Webb may be one, PC possibly that way too, but how many schools actually in the Big South are in the same boat y'all are in?
Well, I would think that we're in a similar situation. I don't know exactly, but I think we're in a similar situation with Gardner-Webb, Presbyterian, and Charleston Southern. And I think the rest of the schools are kind of like a little tiered better. But if I had to guess, now I know my athletic director would know, because he actually know the budgets of every school and what they're doing and what they're not doing. But if I had to look at the gym situation and their scheduling and how they schedule, I would think that it would be Upstate, Gardner-Webb, Presbyterian, and Charleston Southern kind of in similar situations.
Okay. I'm going to change gears, and I'm going to come back to this minute. I sit there and I think about things, and I enjoy bouncing them off of you. All these things when I'm watching a game or something, throwing this one out. What are your thoughts on the shot clock for high school?
I think that what's going to make college basketball really good is that it becomes a universal thing. In a sense that the same rules for men got to be for women, and vice versa. I think the same rules in high school got to apply to college. And so now I don't necessarily think you have to have the same shot clock, but you got to have some sense of playing fast and some sense of playing with making decisions under duress. And so so if you go to some states and you go to some leagues, they have the shot clock in high school. And then most of the state schools, the city schools, they don't have them. And so I think you got to make that a universal thing. But I also think that in college basketball, women have the quarters.
Right.
They got 4 quarters.
I like quarters.
Yeah, we got to get through the same thing.
And I like the advance the ball at
No
the
doubt
end of
about
the game
that.
at half court.
And that's the second thing I was going to say, like the advancement of the basketball. Because now, with 5 seconds to go in the game, you can bring that ball to the sideline now.
Yep.
It's a whole different ball game. And so I think the one thing that's wrong with basketball from a high school, college, and pro standpoint, they have so many different rules.
Right.
And you got to make this thing universal.
And my position on this was, and I went back with the other high school coaches, you're not supposed to be able to recruit in high school. You've got to play with the cards you've been dealt. And that same team I was telling you about with that incident with the player that came over there and said a few things to me in there, they beat us that night. We tried to run with them. They beat us by 36 on our home court. We played them second time around. I couldn't play. I couldn't do what we wanted to do. I couldn't run with them. And what I did was, and I told you my offense in there, that we spread it out, and I went and put a Princeton-type offense in there to limit their possessions. And we were beating them 90% of the game and on their home court in the rematch. And their big guys got a couple of putbacks late, and we lost to them by 3 after getting beat by 36 on our home court. Because I would not let them run the floor. They had to come out and play us defense for a long time, and they quit wanting to play defense, and we were not taking anything but backdoor cuts, layups, and those kind of things. That was the only chance I had to beat them. And I know it wasn't pretty, but sometimes when you are having to play with the hand you've been dealt, I don't like it sometimes because they're wanting to do that, because that takes away your coaching as a coach.
Well, we had to make the adjustment against High Point from the time we played them at our place to the second game. And we had to really dominate the paint, and we had to keep them out of the paint and keep them off the free throw line. And one guy can't do that. You have to have 5 guys commit to the ball. And so we were able to do that to give ourselves a chance to win that game. And so I agree with you. Like, you got to do what you got to do. But I just think that the game of basketball looks so different in high school, from high school to college, from college to pro. And you look at the women basketball versus men basketball, it's just so different. And so now if you can make it more of a universal deal, and then everybody's playing by the same rules, then everybody get better by the same rules.
That's true. That is true there. All right, let's see what we got. I was going to throw one out at you here, too, and ask you. Again, we're jumping all over the place.
Sure.
You mentioned that one of your favorite foods is fried chicken.
Yeah.
They don't have chicken here.
Okay.
But there is I'm going to tell you a place you may have been to, you may not have been to. If you want to get some good fried chicken, you ask me that. You ever been to Caramai?
No.
Caramai is, you go up I-26 like you're going to Asheville.
Okay.
But as soon as you cross the North Carolina line, you get off the Tryon exit. Caramai is a little restaurant that's kind of back a couple of miles off the highway that's been there, since back in the 60s when I was a little boy there. But what they do is they've got, like, you can get trout. You can get the my wife usually gets the broiled trout. I get the fried chicken, but they've even got steak. They got all kind of stuff. And what they do is they bring you out and keep bringing you bowls of macaroni salad in there. It's the slaw. They've got the cooked apples in there, and they got green beans. They've got homemade biscuits and all that. You only get one helping of the main course. And I get it. It's a half a chicken. It's a half a fried chicken. You get that, but they just keep filling the bowls up as long as you want to sit there and eat the vegetables. Go with it.
And how far is that away from here, Dick?
It's just across the South Carolina, North Carolina line before on 26 going up there. You go past Landrum. You get off. You go past the exit line. The state line.
Okay.
There, the very next exit. Get off there. Go around the cul-de-sac and go back that way. You go past Harmon Field and Tryon, and it's a little restaurant there. It's by a stream. It's got rockers you sit in while you're waiting outside. You've got the little covered bridge there and a stream, and it's a house in there. And they just bring you the bowls of the food, and it's called Caramai.
I'll be there.
I highly recommend you going there sometime.
I would definitely be there.
That would be one if you like fried chicken. But they got stuff there. I don't know. They got chicken livers there. They got country ham and biscuits.
Yeah,
and all kind of stuff.
I love those chicken livers, man. I love that.
They say that's the best around.
It is.
There. That they've got them there. But that is a place during the off season. That's something for you that you need to try. All right. Something else. Have y'all ever thought about doing basketball camps?
Yeah, we are going to get back to that now.
Are you? Now you got a gym back.
Yes, now we got a gym back. We only had one camp this past year. We had it in the recreation center there on campus, and now we're going to get our gym back. We should have it all summer, and we're definitely going to do basketball camp. Basketball camp is one of those things you do if you get 20 people or you get 200 people, because for us as coaches, it gives us a chance to get back to the root of why we coach,
right?
Which is to help anyone that love the game. You want to give them the game from first-hand base. So we are definitely setting our dates right now for camp, and we're looking forward to it.
Okay, and again, I think you've got so many of them out there, kids. I mean, they got art camps, they got all kinds of stuff out there. But whatever you can get, and I can think back to the days when Jim Johnson and I started Upward. And we did the camps there. We used to max ours out at 320. Matter of fact, we bust them all over Spartanburg. We used the School for the Deaf and Blind out here. We used church gyms, and we used the Methodist College gym. But we had about 5 different locations, and we filled it up.
So, when you say started Upward, was the Upward gyms there then?
No.
So you didn't
there was nothing Upward at all. Oh. We were the founders of that, and that got taken away from us by somebody that came in that was a minister of recreation at one of the church gyms we used. He stole our idea, our name, and our mailing list, and then before we know it, he patented it and told us we couldn't use that name anymore. And I had to change the name of my camp to Living Above the Rim Basketball Camp. And he made millions off of it doing that, but stole our name and our idea and all that right out from under us. And you wouldn't think, and the thing about it was we went to the same church, and unfortunately he snowed over. The preacher of that church supported him fully, not doing that, and did not know, to this day still stands behind him on that. The church administrator knew that he took something that didn't belong to him for us.
Oh, wow.
But I was a deacon in that church, and he tried to tell me, say, you're nothing more than just a coach in that league. You weren't a director. You weren't any of that. When I had actually taken my camp, I was doing it Dawkins Middle School and moved it. That I was bringing in 7,500 kids there, and Jim was wanting to do a camp. We put them in together over at the Methodist College. They asked me, will you bring your camp over here? And we put it all together, and I said, yeah, we'll do that.
I did not know that.
So that was, I look at all that stuff and all the money there and all like that. Because, as a matter of fact, the guy told me, he said, "What?" He said, I'll do the leagues. Why don't you come in and do all the camps with this? He said, you can make a killing. This was a church recreation minister telling me that. And I said, no, I'm enjoying my coaching right now. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But that was the thing there. But we used to fill up the camps. And what we did, too, was that we had a connection. Mike Bray was assistant at Duke then.
Sure was.
And so we brought it, and we would bring in, that's when they could send you players.
Yeah.
We had Bobby Hurley come in.
Come in and speak, right?
He came in and speak, and I had him. Trying to think who else from Duke. Thomas Brickey that played at Duke was one of them that came. We had Thomas Hill came.
Thomas Hill, Robert Brickey, oh, wow.
And we picked up, and again, I was asking you rebound, and I couldn't help but think, but we had George Lynch from North Carolina,
George
and
Lynch
he did a talk on rebounding.
That was great rebounder.
And I asked him what the secret was, and what he used to do was he would pop them with a forearm in the chest and stun them like that. And it gave him time when he could almost wind him. It gave him time to block them and seal them and go from there. That was the key to his success, was he used that forearm to pop them with to get position and then get back with them, though.
Yeah, but he was actually my time. I mean, he and I were the same years.
But he was one of the best rebounders.
No, he was good.
We knew back there. But we used to bring all those guys in, and they could come in and do the camp. But we had a pipeline that Mike Bray helped us get the players to come in. And then,
and those are the good old days when I used to do the same thing at the University of Maryland.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we had him, and then Mike was good friends with a really good friend of mine, Coach Pete Strickland.
Oh, Pete, yeah.
Pete is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Pete and I did my mentorship on my master's program with Pete down in Coastal Carolina. And I used to help him run the camp down there and do stuff.
Well, I want you to tell Pete I'm still mad at him because I tried to hire him when I got the job at Tulane. And he wouldn't come. And so, no, I love Pete. I love Pete Strickland. Yeah.
Well, I used to enjoy when we went to camp there every year, and he let me set up. We did something unique. We had a unique situation, and that basketball camp down there, I said, Pete, we need to change the schedule up a little bit because I said, you got the beach and all this stuff. I said, guys come in here, and I said, they play hard, and go at it for 2 straight days. I said, we need a day off, beach day, to let the guys go to the beach for the day and just let them clear their heads because the coaches are sick of them after 2 days.
Yep.
They're sick of the coaches, the competition and all. And he said, that's a great idea. So what we did was that we had no game schedule for one day. You took your team and you went to the beach or did whatever you wanted to do. But what he had too was that he had free golf for the coaches down there to come and play.
Oh my goodness!
I took my team. This was my great recruiter within my own school. There, I took about 50 kids to camp with me every year. I took 3 varsity teams. One of my varsity teams was the vacation squad. That was the guys that would never make the team.
Yeah.
I put my first string on my team, pretty much. I put the second string on another team, those guys. And then their best friends were on the third team that wanted to go to the beach and hang out with their buddies that were going to be playing varsity and like basketball, and they got to play in a league. I took 3 JV teams. I took 6 teams to camp every year.
Oh, wow.
And we would go, and you talk about the kids loved that as much as Christmas. When are we going to camp, Coach? Because we would go and do that, and I'd take them at night. You have not lived until you have gone down Ocean Boulevard at Myrtle Beach in a school bus with 50 high school guys. I have never. I mean, we'd go cruising. We'd take them to the pavilion. We'd go cruising down Ocean Boulevard in the bus. And I usually was riding behind the car behind me and Coach Tony and all. And we'd be going down the road down there, and you knew when there was a good-looking girl because that bus would tilt. They'd run to that side, and they'd start talking junk to them over there and all. And then we were going down the road there and at one time, and then all the thing on my side of the bus where I'm fooling behind, they tilt right there. And I said, Coach Tony, you're not going to believe what just happened. I said, that girl just flashed her bus. And so they did. So we went down the road a little bit farther, and here goes the roar, and they tilt again. And he said, those girls just mooned the bus over here.
And so the good part of that probably was for you taking 6 teams. That was a good payday for you, too, as well.
Yes, it was. It sure was there. But we did that. We went down the Grand Prix Raceway down there, and the only 2 injuries we had the whole week of camp were Coach Tony and I in the go-karts. That I hit the wall racing. I would run them off the track. I would knock them all over the place. We had fun. And Coach Tony came flying in, thought he was in the bump cars instead of go-karts. He's 6'5".
Oh, man.
Hit both his shins on the dash there, though. But those kids, that was my best team-building things.
Yeah.
We went down there one year, and we all got temporary tattoos with a bulldog head. One of my coaches got it on his bald head up here and did that, forgetting that he had to be in a wedding that weekend and could not get it off and rubbed a blister on his head. So Pete Strickland saw that, and Pete started calling him Gorbachev because that's who he looked like, though. But Pete and I would go out and play golf.
Yeah.
Pete, Barry, Tony, and I, my buddy, would go out there too. But he called Coach Tony played with these high tees. He called him high tees Tony, but we'd go out there and we would play with his staff, and we just had the best times, though. I hated when Pete had to leave down there, but we would sit there at lunch with his salt and pepper shaker, and I would be showing my plays, and he'd be writing them on napkins, and we'd put them there, and he put them in at Coastal and took them up with Sidney Lowe and put them up at NC State up there, our out-of-bounds plays and stuff.
Well, that's the thing that coaches used to do, and they don't do that much now. because the game has changed so much, and then the age of the game has changed to where now everything is on a laptop, everything is on on a computerized analytics and all these stuff, to where now you and I, we want to write our stuff out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, see, I actually had all my plays on my computer where it was a Coach's Edge program. I don't know if you ever had that, though, but I had my whole playbook on there, and I could actually pull that up at camp and say, oh, we're getting ready to run this right here, watch. And it would run through the play with the little X's and men and stuff where it executed the plays there, though.
Yeah.
But we would do that. I would take that during scrimmages and stuff, and I could show them this is what we're getting ready to run, refresh their memory. Well, they knew it pretty much because we'd done it and all right there, though. But that was one of the big things that we would do pretty much during the summers with all those things going on.
Yep.
So, but, I've got something I want to give you here today. Let's see if I pull it up. I got something in my office that I wanted you to get right here, too, that maybe sums up a little. For this year's season, a good coach can change a game, a great coach can change a life, and that's what it's all about right there. That unfortunately, this world that we live in today is more centered with wins and losses and things like that, that people don't realize that. I don't know if you've got one of those or not.
No, I don't, and obviously I appreciate that, because no matter what, I understand what I'm judged by. But what I really want from my guys is that if I know I've done a good job with them, and this used to be when you can keep guys for 4 or 5 years, right? When I've done a good job with them, they invite me to their wedding, and when they have their firstborn, they send me a picture. And so this embodies that a good coach can change a game, a great coach can change someone's lives, and that's. No matter what happens with my coaching career, this is the most important thing to me. And because I know if I can help them become better people, then they can become a better teammate and we become a better team.
Well, I basically got out of coaching because I burned out.
Yeah.
The battles that I had to fight, we were the first ones that ever hold a summer league in Spartanburg. I did the things, too, was trying to be innovative with tournaments and a lot of things implemented that they're now doing in Spartanburg County and all. And I worked my tail off because I inherited a team at Bowling Springs that had won 3 games in 2 years. And the kids up there were embarrassed to wear their letter jackets to Westgate Mall or anywhere like that. And by the end of when I finished up there, I had kids transfer from Spartanburg and Dorman both that wanted our uniforms, that wanted to play for us.
Yes.
And we won the battle.
Yep.
And it was a situation where I had 2 seasons. My second year up there, I inherited a team that had 11 seniors my first year there. And I was told by the superintendent, because I told him, I said, how long I was assistant head coach at Dorman, and I'd already been promised by the superintendent, you're next in line.
Sure.
Right there. And so the superintendent up there in District 2 offered me the job. I said, well, how long do I have to make my decision? He said, what's there to decide? And I said, well, number one, I said, I've got a really good job where I am right now. And I said, number two, there has never been a coach at Bowling Springs High School go on to anything bigger or better here. And he looked at me and he said, if you could ever win 8 games at Bowling Springs High School, you could go anywhere in the state you wanted to. And my first year there, I won 12.
Yes.
And I got offers from other schools there. But my second year, I had to basically rebuild everything because I played and finished up with the seniors next year, and I started a whole team that was sophomores. We were basically a JV team, and we ended up winning 3 games that year. We were 3-22. But we learned, we grew. I had 2 seniors on that team. I only had everybody else was young coming back. And by the time those guys were seniors, We won 25 games. We won the region. We made it all the way to state semifinals and got beat by Lexington on their court in a game that should have been on a neutral court.
Yeah.
And I had 17 of my players sign college scholarships and went on there. And I think my last 6 years there, I averaged almost 17 wins a year. That was my standard. Only 2 times in the years that I coached did I not win 8 ball games. And that was the year after I won the state championship. That's when the football coaches talked all my players into not playing, and I had to start all over again. And I said, this time I will never build my team around, because, again, my 2 best players coming back off that championship team were, one would have been the all-time leading scorer there, would have been 4-year starter. He went to South Carolina, was the MVP in a bowl game at the Outback Bowl and stuff like that. And then the big man with him was an offensive lineman. If I had them, I was set to make a run again. But I got mashed that next year.
Yeah, I think that, I know this is our last segment, and I just wanted to let our fans know that, with our chancellor, Chancellor Benny Harris, and our new AD, Matthew Martin, I just think that from a leadership standpoint, this is a really good situation that I have at Upstate. And I had a meeting today with our athletic director, and one of the best meetings I've had with the athletic director since I've been at Upstate. And obviously, we're in partnership, and just with Chancellor Harris and him going through the Big South and seeing High Point this past weekend and seeing all the things that are happening in the Big South, I just think that we're in good hands, and that we're going to be heading in the right direction. I got to make sure the transfer portal is kind to us this year, like it was very unkind to us last year. And I'm very excited. And for me personally, I've always said that I'm excited where my feet are. And for my son and I, my feet is here in Spartanburg and Inman. My son is on campus. We're excited, and I'm looking forward to the next. And the next for me is getting off air, making these recruiting calls, and having these meetings tomorrow, and then going on the road recruiting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week.
Well, it was, like I say, I've enjoyed so much this year, because when I got out of high school basketball, I had a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah. I fought the battle up there for 15 years where the football coach, who was the athletic director too, they tried everything they could. There was so much jealousy and backstabbing up there. I had the football coach, athletic director tell me, as athletic director and football coach, I'm ordering you to make certain players play on your basketball team, play on my football team. And I said, I don't beg them to play for me, and I sure as heck ain't going to beg them to play for you. And then he looks back at me and said, there'll never be a football player give up football for basketball, because I've got more coaches than you do, and we'll tell them whatever they need to hear. And I fought that battle up there for 15 years. And I got out of coaching my last year up there that I had so many people within my own school that were trying to sabotage my program and all, that it got to the point to where the things they were trying to do to me was not fair to my players anymore.
Well, that's the it happens at every level, because what happened is a lot of coaches are territorial, and it shouldn't be that way. And I think that since I've been at Upstate, it's been the best I've seen. And when I was at Ohio State, everyone knew that football was king. So you just gotta get in line, right? And so, but what the stories you're saying right now, I've heard a lot, even in college.
Wow.
In a sense that it doesn't stop in high school. It goes to college as well. In a sense that, because everybody's so territorial, in which I'm on the mindset that if everybody wins, everybody get a piece of the pie.
Right.
And so there are players that want to play 2 sports, and there are players sometimes that don't want to play 2 sports. And so, but I think when you become territorial, it not only hurts the coach and his career, but it hurts, most importantly, the young men and women that we coach.
It's not fair to them.
It's not fair to them.
Well, it was, right there. I had the coach, athletic director, come to me and said, "What are you trying to do? Turn this into a basketball school?" I said, "Is that not what the district's paying me to do? Like they're paying you to make it a football school, and and you be the baseball right there?" But it was so crazy because we were the first ones in high school to ever put the backs on our names on the back of our uniforms and warm-ups and stuff like that. And I asked them for that.
Yeah.
And because football, I think was getting ready to do that. I said, "Can we do that?" And they said, something about that. They said, "I've never heard of that before." I said, "Well, football's doing it. Why can't we do it?"
Yeah.
And he looked at me. He said, "Well, find out what Spartanburg and Dorman are doing." Said, if they do it, then I guess we'll have to keep up with the Joneses. And I looked at him and I said, "Mac, why can't we ever be the Joneses?"
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, "Go ahead and do it, though." But
Yeah.
it was brutal. And I raised over $100,000 for the basketball program while I was there. I had a scoreboard up there, a $37,000 scoreboard, which I asked them, could I get that? And they said, "District doesn't have that money." I said, "But I'll raise the money then." And I raised the money, and the principal smirked and said, "Yeah, sure, if you can do that," because he vetoed Coca-Cola was going to pay for it. There was a message board up there, player stats, like what y'all got.
Oh, yeah.
And we were going to be the first one in the high school to have that in the state. And so he said, "Sure, go on and raise the money." Well, within 2 weeks, I raised $32,000 to get that scoreboard.
Wow.
And they had to put it up in there, though.
Yeah.
Well, needless to say, when I left, they tore it down because nobody knew. They were too embarrassed to ask me how to do it, and they ended up tearing the scoreboard down.
Oh,
but we got the light-up score tables. We got all the things like that.
Well, good.
But I left as all-time winningest coach, and got my ring with it and all like that, though. But when I left up there, the last thing they said to me was, "Good luck, wish you luck wherever you're going." Did you turn all your keys in? And I told myself I would never go back there again. And I haven't, though. And that's why I don't go. I tried high school basketball doing my all-star game. Did it a little bit there, but I don't even go to high school games anymore. And that's why I appreciate I love the game of basketball. I love being around it. I'm still a big student of the game and all, and just really have appreciated getting to be with you and talk basketball with you. My wife has a lot of health issues, and she don't want to talk basketball. But I've had a ball talking basketball with you this season and doing that, and I've had fun getting to go back to my alma mater and try to help y'all in any way that I can promoting USC Upstate basketball.
Well, Dick, I've had a blast, and when we first talked about this, I didn't think it was going to happen. And now that it happened, and just my players, and because we do what we do not for ourselves, we do it for our players.
Right.
And I hope that we continue to do this because this is a big part of who we are, and this is going to be a big reason why we're a good basketball program, because of you. So appreciate you. Thank you, man.
Well, I'm wanting to do it too. I'm even got the back wheels turning. I would love to see. So I used to be on the one of the people on the Spartanburg Touchdown Tip-Off club that we used to have here in town, where we brought in college coaches to speak, honored the high school teams and all like that. I would love to see that happen again in the near future, and might be talking with you too to bounce some ideas to see if we can create something within Spartanburg County, some type of tip-off club.
I'd love to do that.
What we can do.
I'd love to do that. I'll be all in on that.
Well, we'll take care of that, though. And we appreciate everybody who's tuned in with us, though. Appreciate JC, who was with us earlier today.
He was marvelous.
I don't know what I'm going to do now. On Mondays now, my wife's going to be very happy now there. But, again, bless her heart. She lets me go out. She's got some problems, and I have to drive her a lot of places there. So I appreciate the time I get to go and do things. That I appreciate it, and I appreciate you being generous with your time, and have learned a lot this year from what we've done.
Yeah, well, thank you, and God bless your wife, and obviously she'll be in my prayers.
Well, thank you. Have a great off season.
Thank you now.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh.